Cain and Abel. In the biblical book of Genesis, Cain and Abel are the first two sons of Adam and Eve. Cain, the firstborn, was a farmer, and his brother Abel was a shepherd. The brothers made sacrifices to God, each of his own produce, but God favored Abel's sacrifice instead of Cain's. Cain then murdered Abel, whereupon God punished Cain by condemning him to a life of wandering. Cain then dwelt in the land of Nod and Vod, wandering, where he built a city and fathered the line of descendants beginning with Enoch. Genesis narrative. The story of Cain's murder of Abel and its consequences is told in Genesis 4:1-18. And the human knew Eve his woman, and she conceived and bore Cain, and she said, I have got me a man with the Lord. And she bore as well his brother Abel, and Abel became a herder of sheep, while Cain was a tiller of the soil. And it happened in the course of time that Cain brought from the fruit of the soil an offering to the Lord. And Abel too had brought from the choice firstlings of his flock, and the Lord regarded Abel and his offering, but did not regard Cain and his offering. And Cain was very incensed, and his face fell. And the Lord said to Cain, and Cain said to Abel his brother, Let us go out to the field. And when they were in the field, Cain rose against Abel his brother and killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the soil. And so, cursed shall you be by the soil that gaped with its mouth to take your brother's blood from your hand. If you till the soil, it will no longer give you strength. A restless wanderer shall you be on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is too great to bear. Now that you have driven me this day from the soil, I must hide from your presence. I shall be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore whoever kills Cain shall suffer sevenfold vengeance. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain so that whoever found him would not slay him. And Cain went out from the Lord's presence and dwelt in the land of Nod east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. Then he became the builder of a city, and he called the name of the city like his son's name, Enoch. Translation notes. Origins. Etymology. Cain and Abel are traditional English renderings of the Hebrew names. It has been proposed that the etymology of their names may be a direct pun on the roles they take in the Genesis narrative. Abel HBL is thought to derive from a reconstructed word meaning herdsman, with the modern Arabic cognate Abel now specifically referring only to camels. Cainkin is thought to be cognate to the mid-1st millennium BC South Arabian word kin, meaning metalsmith. This theory would make the names descriptive of their roles, where Abel works with livestock and Cain with agriculture, and would parallel the names Adam DM man and Eve KHVH HWH life-giver, 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 life-giver. Original appearance. The oldest known copy of the biblical narrative is from the Dead Sea Scrolls and dates to the 1st century BCE. Cain and Abel also appear in a number of other texts, and the story is the subject of various interpretations. Abel, the first murder victim, is sometimes seen as the first martyr, while Cain, the first murderer, is sometimes seen as an ancestor of evil. Some scholars suggest the pericope may have been based on a Sumerian story representing the conflict between nomadic shepherds and settled farmers. Modern scholars typically view the stories of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel to be about the development of civilization during the age of agriculture, not the beginnings of man, but when people first learned agriculture, replacing the ways of the hunter-gatherer. Academic theologian Joseph Blenkinsop holds that Cain and Abel are symbolic rather than real. Like almost all of the persons, places, and stories in the primeval history, the first 11 chapters of Genesis, they are mentioned nowhere else in the Hebrew Bible, a fact that suggests that the history is a late composition attached to Genesis to serve as an introduction. Just how late is a matter for dispute. The history may be as late as the Hellenistic period, first decades of the 4th century BCE, but the high level of Babylonian myth behind its stories has led others to date it to the Babylonian exile 6th century BCE. A prominent Mesopotamian parallel to Cain and Abel is the Sumerian myth of the courtship of Inanna and Dumuzi, in which the shepherd Dumuzi and the farmer Enkidu compete for the affection of the goddess Inanna, with Dumuzi the shepherd winning out. Another parallel is Enlil chooses the farmer god, in which the shepherd god Emesh and the farmer god Inten bring their dispute over which of them is better to the chief god Enlil, who rules in favor of Inten the farmer. Jewish and Christian interpretations. Islamic interpretation. The story appears in the Quran 5:27-31. Prophet, tell them the truth about the story of Adam's two sons. Each of them offered a sacrifice, and it was accepted from one and not the other. One said, I will kill you, but the other said, God only accepts the sacrifice of those who are mindful of him. If you raise your hand to kill me, I will not raise mine to kill you. I fear God, the Lord of all worlds, and I would rather you were burdened with my sins as well as yours, and became an inhabitant of the fire. Such is the evildoer's reward. But his soul prompted him to kill his brother. He killed him and became one of the losers. God sent a raven to scratch up the ground and show him how to cover his brother's corpse, and he said, Woe is me! Could I not have been like this raven and covered up my brother's body? There's body, 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 other's body, there's body, others. He became remorseful. The story of Cain and Abel has always been used as a deterrent from murder in Islamic tradition. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud reported that Mohammed said in a hadith, no soul is wrongfully killed except that some of the burden falls upon the son of Adam, for he was the first to establish the practice of murder. Muslim scholars were divided on the motives behind Cain's murder of Abel, and further why the two brothers were obliged to offer sacrifices to God. Some scholars believed that Cain's motives were plain jealousy and lust. Both Cain and Abel desired to marry Adam's beautiful daughter, Aklima Arabic, Aklimi. Seeking to end the dispute between them, Adam suggested that each present an offering before God. The one whose offering God accepted would marry Aklima. Abel, a generous shepherd, offered the fattest of his sheep as an oblation to God. But Cain, a miserly farmer, offered only a bunch of grass and some worthless seeds to him. God accepted Abel's offering and rejected Cain's, an indication that Abel was more righteous than Cain, and thus worthier of Aklima. As a result, it was decided that Abel would marry Aklima. Cain, on the other hand, would marry her less beautiful sister. Blinded by anger and lust for Aklima, Cain sought to get revenge on Abel and escape with Aklima. According to another tradition, the devil appeared to Cain and instructed him how to exact revenge on Abel. Hit Abel's head with a stone and kill him, whispered the devil to Cain. After the murder, the devil hurried to Eve shouting, Eve, Cain has murdered Abel. Eve did not know what murder was or how death felt like. She asked, bewildered and horrified, Woe to you, what is murder? Abel does not eat, he does not drink. He does not move, that's what murder and death are, answered the devil. Eve burst out into tears and started to wail madly. She ran to Adam and tried to tell him what happened. However, she could not speak because she could not stop wailing. Since then, women wail broken-heartedly when a loved one dies. A different tradition narrates that while Cain was quarreling with Abel, the devil killed an animal with a stone in Cain's sight to show him how to murder Abel. After burying Abel and escaping from his family, Cain got married and had children. They died in Noah's flood among other tyrants and unbelievers. Some Muslim scholars puzzled over the mention of offerings in the narrative of Cain and Abel. Offerings and sacrifices were ordained only after the revelation of Terrot to Musa. This led some scholars, such as Sayyid ibn al-Musayyib, to think that the sons of Adam mentioned in the Quran are actually two Israelites, not Cain and Abel. Legacy and symbolism. Allusions to Cain and Abel as an archetype of fratricide appear in numerous references and retellings through medieval art and Shakespearean works up to present-day fiction. A millennia-old explanation for Cain being capable of murder is that he may have been the offspring of a fallen angel or Satan himself, rather than being from Adam. A treatise on Christian Hermeticism, Meditations on the Terrot, A Journey into Christian Hermeticism, describes the biblical account of Cain and Abel as a myth, in that it expresses, in a form narrated for a particular case, an eternal idea. It argues that brothers can become mortal enemies through the very fact that they worship the same God in the same way. According to the author, the source of religious wars is revealed. It is not the difference in dogma or ritual which is the cause, but the pretension to equality or the negation of hierarchy. There were other minor traditions concerning Cain and Abel of both older and newer date. The apocryphal life of Adam and Eve tells of Eve having a dream in which Cain drank his brother's blood. In an attempt to prevent the prophecy from happening, the two young men are separated and given different jobs. Cultural references. Like other prominent biblical figures, Cain and Abel appear in many works of art, including works by Titian, Peter Paul Rubens, and William Blake. In William Shakespeare's Hamlet, the characters King Claudius and King Hamlet are parallels of Cain and Abel. Lord Byron rewrote and dramatized the story in the play Cain 1821, viewing Cain as symbolic of a sanguine temperament, provoked by Abel's hypocrisy and sanctimony. Miguel de Unamuno's 1917 novel Abel Sanchez, A Story of a Passion, is a retelling of the Cain and Abel story. John Steinbeck's 1952 novel East of Eden, also a 1955 film, refers in its title to Cain's exile and contains discussions of the Cain and Abel story, which then play out in the plot. James Baldwin's 1957 short story, Sonny's Blues, has been seen as alluding to the Cain and Abel story. Cain and Abel have appeared as characters in DC Comics since the 1950s. In 1989, Neil Gaiman made the two recurring characters in his comic series The Sandman, Bobby and J.R. Ewing, in the TV series Dallas 1978, have been described as variations of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel appear in the Stephen Schwartz musical Children of Eden 1991. Author Daniel Quinn, first in his novel Ishmael 1992 and later in The Story of B 1996, proposes that the story of Cain and Abel is an account of early Semitic herdsmen observing the beginnings of what he calls totalitarian agriculture, with Cain representing the first modern agriculturists and Abel the pastoralists. The heavy metal band Avenged Sevenfold took their name from the biblical story. The Danish stage play Bibelen 2008 discusses and reenacts various biblical stories, including Abel's murder by Cain. Cain appeared on the TV series Supernatural Season 9 and 10, 2014-2015, as a recurring character. In the series, Cain killed Abel to save him from corruption by the devil. In Darren Aronofsky's allegorical film Mother, 2017, the character's oldest son and younger brother represent Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel appear on the TV series Lucifer Season 3, 2017.